Hello and welcome to Exercise 2. Let's go ahead and get started. First, I'm going to give my exercise a name. We'll call this Exercise 2. Hit the little button that says Create. Now I'm going to continue on with the quick lift setup. I'm going to do one more lift plan like this, and then we'll go ahead and move on in the next exercises into our advanced lift setup. So again, going to ask us some basic questions. Now on this particular exercise, we want to put a couple of buildings in. So I'm going to go ahead and skip the third question when I get to it, and I'm just going to answer the first two. So how much weight are we lifting? So in this exercise, we're going to set a 10,000 pound air conditioning unit on top of a building, and we're going to set that air conditioning unit 30 feet in from the front edge of the building. So our air conditioning unit weighs 10,000 pounds. And we want to set this on top of a building. And so if we look at our building dimensions, our building is 50 feet tall. So we want to make sure we put at least 50 feet in here. If you were to put a smaller number in here, when you do your crane search, it's going to tell you there's no cranes available that can actually do this lift. So make sure you put a number at least as high as the building or obstruction that you're lifting on or over. So I'm going to go ahead and put 50. And then I'm going to skip the how far are we lifting, because I'm actually going to tell it where I want to place the center pin of my crane. And then I'm going to tell it that I want to set that air conditioning unit 30 feet in from the front edge of the building. So we'll go ahead and just hit the little next button this time. Okay, and on the next page, we're going to go ahead and click on the shape that we want to lift. So in this case, we're going to lift an air conditioning unit. So a box would represent it quite well. So we want to put the dimensions in of our air conditioning unit. So it is going to be 15 feet in length, 8 feet in width, and 10 feet tall. We'll go ahead and hit the button that says next. And we could tell it however many parts of line that we want to use. So if we select 3 parts of line, it's going to give us a hook block with 3 parts of line on it. Now we could select the basic rigging setup that we want. In this exercise, I really didn't say that we wanted to put rigging in here, so I'm just going to go ahead and select the little 4-leg bridle. And from here, you could go in and play with your pick points, so how far apart you want them to be in the X and the Z direction. You could tell it the length that you want your slings to be, so if you want 15-foot slings, if we hit the update button down here, it's going to automatically calculate leg height and sling angle. So we'll go ahead and hit the next button. And then it says select the job site design you would like to use. So we have one building that's in front of us. So I'm going to go ahead and just select the second button here. And now we need to enter the dimensions actually of the building that we want to draw in here. So our building is 50 feet in length, 100 feet in width, and 50 feet tall. We'll go ahead and hit the next button again. And which other obstructions would you like to add to your job site? So we could add a building to the rear or an obstruction to the rear, to the right, or to the left. So we just want to add an obstruction to the rear. So I'm going to put a check mark next to that, and we'll hit the next button. Now it's going to ask us for the dimensions of that building as well. And so that building is also 50 feet in length, 100 feet in width, and 50 feet tall. Distance from front obstruction. So what's the distance we want between our two buildings here? So distance from front obstruction is going to be, looks like 60 feet back. So we'll go ahead and select next. Okay, and on this page, we're actually going to tell it where we want to place the center pin of the crane and where we want to place the load on the building. So minimum setup distance is going to be the distance from the center pin of our crane to the front edge of this building. So we can leave that at 0, and 3D lift plan is always going to calculate as the very closest point that your center pin of your crane can get to the building. But now we do want to tell it how far in we want the load to be on the building. So the load distance is going to be the distance from the front edge of the building to where we want to place that load. So, and that's going to be the center of the load. So we want to put that air conditioning unit 30 feet in from the front edge. So we'll go ahead and select 30 in there and hit next. Now we could search all of our cranes like we did in the previous exercise, or we could simply just choose the crane that we want to use at this point. but I want to continue with the crane search. So we'll click on Search My Cranes. Now I've already told it where I want the crane to be, so I can ignore this. And I've already told it where I want the load to be, so I can ignore it. If I wanted to move the crane to the right or the left on the job site, I could change that by changing my center pin Z. Same thing if I wanted to offset the load to the right or the left side of the building, I could offset that under load location Z. But we're going to go ahead and just skip this page again. And search clearances. So now we actually do have some obstructions that we can worry about here. So we want to make sure that we have 5 feet of carrier clearance. So what will happen is the outside of our crane, front of our crane, rear of our crane, outside of our outriggers or crawlers will be at least 5 feet away from both the front building and our rear building. And then we want 2 feet of boom clearance, so it will make sure that we have at least 2 feet of clearance over the front edge of our building. Load and rigging clearance we didn't specify, but if we were worried about the load or the rigging getting up into our boom or our jib, we could make sure we specify clearance for that. And then we've got hook clearance. So this is going to be, again, the distance from the tip of the crane down to our hook block. And we can go ahead and hit next. And we want to go ahead and search all the cranes in one of our crane groups again. We don't want to filter out any of the results. I just want to see everything. And if we were again worried if we needed to make sure we were 70% of the crane's load chart or 80%, we could select that there. Find best result. This isn't necessarily the best. It's just going to give us one result per crane as long as the crane can actually do the lift. So we'll go ahead and just leave it on that. If you wanted to see every counterweight, configuration, outrigger position, etc., you would click on Find Multiple Results per Crane. Go ahead and select Next. And again, it's going to show us all the different cranes that can do the lift. So we could select any one of these. Let's say this time we want to select the Grove GMK 3050-1. So now we've got our crane in place. Now we probably want to rotate the carrier of our crane around so we're lifting over the side. Okay, so to do this, we have a couple different ways that we could do this. We could change the carrier angle of our crane to 90. Now when I do that, you'll notice that our entire crane rotated. And then we would just want to swing over, so we'd want to change our swing angle to 270, and we'd be right over the top of our building right where we want it. Now I'm going to go ahead and switch this back because let's say that you were not directly over the rear or over the side, you were just partially. That would be a little more difficult way to try to figure out what your swing angle needs to be. So the other way to do it would be to lock the load in place. So you'll notice a little lock down here in the lower right hand corner. So by clicking on that and then changing our carrier angle to 90, you'll notice that our swing angle automatically changed to 270. So now we've got our carrier rotated exactly the way we want it. We're lifting over the side and we have the load in place. Now again, to go print, we can just simply go to the print page and we'll hit the forward arrow. We want to go ahead and print this in portrait mode. Again, I like to line everything up right over the little camera button here. And then we'll just go ahead and hit the little button. This is going to do a screen capture of our image. And now we'll have our lift plan. So we've got our crane in place, we've got our load in place, we've got our crane information and load information in the upper left. Again, can be customized with your logo and all of your details for the lift plan and notes here. So to print this, you'll simply right click over in this area and go to print. And then select the printer you want to print to and print away. All right, thank you so much for watching this video, and I look forward to talking to you in the next video.